I visited my parents for the last time before they sold the home that I once lived in. And this crate was discovered, still existing somewhere in the attic. Ancient He-Man figures that no one knew still existed. Found after 35 years!
These guys have really had the incident. Looks like whoever this guy is has punched through this guy's face with his giant metal fist. Ouch. I don't remember doing this, but this was obviously part of one of my storylines back in the day.
Turns out there were a lot of snake characters. A lot of guys had snake issues. Looks like this guy punches himself in the face, punches his Siamese brother in the face. This guy has got a grappling hook. They called him Grappling Graham. I had not forgotten this guy, the world famous Man-E-Faces.
It's a little rusty over the years. Oh, there we go. Part robot face. Oh, gosh.
And broken fingernail.
Finding these figures made me realize I literally forgot everything about He-Man. So I decided to make this video about remembering He-Man. Let's remember He-Man. Who was he? Why was he called He-Man? Where did he live? What did he do? Did he ever defeat Skeletor in the end? I'm kind of curious because looking at it now, these are really cool figures. A lot of them have really creative designs and really funny action features. The guys that were behind this really did a good job. I think the basic thesis statement of this video might be, who was He-Man? And why was he so weird? So it looks like I had a Skeletor, but I did not have He-Man, if you notice. And I learned from the Netflix documentary, The Toys That Made Us, that actually most kids my age did not own He-Man, due to some kind of supply run mismatch. However, every kid had a Buzz-Off. They over-manufactured Buzz-Off and under-manufactured He-Man. I was someone coming in kind of late to the game, and I found out that in the final years of the toy line, the supply of original figures was depleted, which limited new kids like me from being able to jump into the brand, and this was believed to be a contributing factor to the toy line's end in 1987. And that may have been why He-Man wasn't my favorite toy of all time. I mean, how am I going to have a fleshed out storyline without a He-Man in my He-Man story?
I believe this was Stinkor? No. Moss Man. Whatever. I had Stinkor, but I don't see him here. The one that smelled like a skunk. This one was supposed to smell like moss, but he has lost his mossy smell. This was Crab Rangoon. A lot of guys had crab arms, apparently, including Buzz-Off. Those tiny little weird crab pinchers. This guy was Radar Man or something. He has the ability to spin his arms so fast in a circle that he takes off like a helicopter. He literally can fly doing that. Something flew out of his chest. I don't remember what. I have zero memory of this dude. Some kind of king, obviously. I barely remember this guy. Some kind of bear. He's very sticky. All of these figures are completely incapable of standing up on their own due to these wiggly legs. And no hole in the foot. Guess they didn't think of that back then.
And then there's my favorite all-time Masters of the Universe, this awesome Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is part cyborg, apparently. This guy's got an awesome spring mouth, very powerful clamp that still works, some kind of laser gun, and also a surprise belly weapon, which is, I think, supposed to do something. So He-Man lived in the world of Eternia, which is its own planet, and you've got these barbarians running around. Also, dinosaurs are running around. So Eternia is basically like a barbarian bizarro land. The name He-Man is a weird name, but He-Man is actually the least weird thing about it. Despite the fact that they're living in a medieval times barbarian world full of castles and people fighting with swords, they also have technology like laser guns. They also have aerial vehicles and cyborgs even. How is it He-Man is living in both the past and the future at the same time? So that's weird. How exactly are you guys living in castles still while you have laser guns and cyborgs?
I don't know. Pretty sure the reason is that it's a toy, and they just did whatever they wanted. No, I'm pretty sure there's a good story reason for it. Just don't know what it is yet.
You know what? It doesn't matter because look how awesome this box art is. These are amazing illustrations. Who did these? Can I get a poster of this?
Okay, I figured it out. Wind this guy up. Springs still seem to work after 30 plus years. All right, let's test this guy's power out on poor April O'Neil.
Oh, I'm just walking around here and I gotta get this report on Vern's desk by 5 o'clock. Oh my gosh!
And fire.
Third time's a charm. Fifth time's a charm. Sixth time's a charm.
11th time's a charm.
Oh, fuck! Oh, you alright?
My nuts.
It had been 3 days since I discovered those He-Man figures in the attic. I began to become inquisitive on how and why exactly He-Man was conceived. After some research, I learned that He-Man was supposedly inspired by the Conan the Barbarian character that first emerged in pulp magazines in the 1930s, then comics in the 70s, and a live-action movie in 1982 that became the starring vehicle for young Arnold Schwarzenegger that brought him worldwide recognition. This inspired me to rewatch Conan the Barbarian movie from 1982.
And onto this Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow.
The film holds up really well and is still extremely well made, and it really puts you in this brutal barbarian world that exists in this time unremembered, a vanished age. In review, that was a totally inspiring movie, and I can see the guys at Mattel being inspired by this film. Now, Mattel Toy Company began a deal with Conan Properties LLC to develop a Conan toy line in 1982, but Mattel, for some reason, would later back out of the deal. I had forgotten some of these characters' names, so I looked them up, and some of these characters had some strange names. Okay, I had this guy. His name was Fisto. Fisto had fisted this guy's face. I don't think they would name someone that these days. Okay, here's this dude. His name was Tongue Lasher. Evil tongue-shooting snake men. Flicking his forked tongue, Tongue Lasher stuns foes of the snake men with his venomous lick. Venomous lick. Then you had Extendo, which was a man with the power to extend various body parts. You also had the aquatic man called Seaman, which they realized was a bad name and they changed it later. You had this weird vehicle. The original name for it was the Ball Buster, and Mattel tried to get that by, but the animation company said, sorry, we can't call this device the Ball Buster. We can't have characters yelling out, oh no, the Ball Buster on Saturday mornings. Admittedly, the creators at Mattel said that they had a bad sense of humor. And speaking of weird, what's with these weird vehicles? I mean, this thing is weird. This is probably the weirdest way of getting around. Like, what is the advantage of this? I guess you can go over a mountain cliff because it doesn't have wheels. Now this other thing here, this has wheels, but they're weird wheels. Why is this world of He-Man and Eternia such a barbarian bizarro land? Okay, so I've discovered that the artist here on these paintings was Earl Norem. He also worked on the comic book and looks like he had a lustrous career as an illustrator. Despite the quality and quantity of his work, he remains relatively unknown and is perhaps not given the acknowledgement he deserves. Okay, let's raise up Earl Norem, huh? After being wounded in World War II, he started a career as an illustrator. He's got some really great work here. These magazine covers are amazing. He illustrated for a variety of comics and magazines. So this guy did a lot of paintings of Conan the Barbarian for the comics. And that makes sense why they brought him over for these He-Man images, because it was obviously in his wheelhouse to do these awesome paintings. Very cool. The Haunt of Horror, Monsters Unleashed, Planet of the Apes, Tales of the Zombie. This has been a history lesson in the art of Earl Norem, 1924 to 2015. Rest in peace, Earl. Great work. Great work. Okay, here's that guy. I had him. And his name was Webster. Webster? Okay, I get that he has a web, but that is a lame name. Grappling Graham was a better name than Webster.
I think it's supposed to be pronounced Webstore, dude.
Oh, okay, I see. He's supposed to be like a spider person. His face looks a little goofy. I couldn't tell he was a spider. Oh, Grizzler. That's a good name. That's really good. Grizzler.
Who's the big guy with the muscles?
He's He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe.
And it looks like He-Man owes a lot of its existence to fantasy painter Frank Frazetta, who was one of the artists who worked on Conan the Barbarian. Frazetta is the painter that is credited the most with giving Conan his visual look. And Mattel, the toy company, had a deal with Conan Properties International to develop Conan the Barbarian toy line. However, they realized it was an R-rated movie, so it's not really appropriate for children. So Mattel took that Barbarian concept and kind of ran with it to develop the He-Man toy line. At some point, the Conan company sued Mattel over copyright infringement. They were like, hey, you guys, we were gonna make Conan Mattel toys together, and now I see you're running off making your own He-Man toy. It looks a little familiar, but they lost in court. Now, I wonder if Mattel probably did rip off Conan a little bit, if not to say heavily influenced and inspired, considering they had worked with them around the same time. And so, the reason He-Man became so weird and wild and colorful is to differentiate it from Conan as much as possible while still being a barbarian. But that's just my conjecture, looking at the history of the matter. Who can really say for sure? When these figures did come out, this was the very first time any toy had ever come out looking this ripped and roided out before, while also colorful and bizarre, sometimes nonsensical. No one had ever seen these types of figures. It was innovative to do it. Even parents were remarking at the uniqueness of this toy. I mean, just check out this very first commercial. The dad says, "Who's the big guy with the muscles?" It works. And another cool benefit of this guy is that he has a very practical application, keeping up with my iPhone headphones. I wonder if this guy happens to be worth anything. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Fuck off. Oh my gosh. He's worth a small fortune. It had been 10 days since I discovered the archive of Masters of the Universe figures in the attic. Since that time, I had impulsively started making a video that was 12 minutes long about He-Man, something I never expected to ever do. Then, on the day that I finished it and went to upload it to the internet, I realized that this very same day of April 28th was known as Masters of the Universe Day. If by fate this video had struck me at just the right time. It's weird happenstance there, huh? Weird synchronicity. Or is it? You've just watched me review my Masters of the Universe collection that I didn't know I still had.
Let's see, wallet, keys, and headphones. See you next time.